Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 25th of February, comes to you from Amsterdam. I'm here seeing clients in Holland this week. We start by looking at the markets. Trump announcing progress on the trade talks, which has helped a lot of markets to start the week on a more positive note. The dollar still bearish on the short-term chart, just showing its bearishness there, and we on the medium and long term charts we're still bullish. The euro dollar is actually just looking a bit stronger on that weaker dollar. Sterling also pushing higher at $1.31, and the euro against the euro we're seeing sterling just holding its bullish stance as well, and against the Swiss franc. So we're seeing sterling holding on to bullish territory. Against the Aussie dollar, not as bullish, but still in bullish territory on the short-term chart. Bitcoin up 1%, so just starting to show some signs of recovery, but has fallen quite heavily yesterday, so not really looking great. The S&P 500 index is up on Friday, so the recovery really continues, just pushing higher, and the same with the Nasdaq, pushing higher, and the Dow up 0.7%, and the broad-based Russell 2000 index also holding its bullish stance as well. Looking at the futures this morning, the S&P future up 1/3%, the Nasdaq E-mini up 0.5%, so it does suggest the US markets will open higher. Looking at the FTSE 100, we're up 0.3% here, and the FTSE 250 is down very slightly this morning. The DAX is up 0.5%, and the CAC 40 up 1/3%. So looking more and more bullish all the time as we emerge out of the medium-term cloud. Tokyo was up just under just over 2/3%. In Hong Kong, we saw the Hang Seng up 0.5%. China rocketed up a massive 5%. So we're really seeing this recovery through the cloud gaining momentum, and that's starting to take some downside targets off the chart. So maybe we're starting to see the bottom for China. Looking at the Sensex, we see also that we're just up 0.5%, but not managing to get back into bullish territory on the short-term chart. Japanese yen, and then if we look at the Australian market, we're bullish there as well. On all three time frames. Brent crude just coming off a little bit this morning. We're down 0.28%, and if we look at WTI, we're down slightly as well. Not changing the short-term trend, but just a little bit bearish. US nat gas sitting at $2.77, jumped a bit on Friday, and so we are just seeing holding on to that gain, short-term bullish now. Gold had a pretty big week last week, fell back a bit, and is now just sitting at around that 1330 mark. So we are just short-term bearish, but just looking like a pullback here, and the longer-term chart's still looking pretty good. And silver pulling back as well, but up this morning, and probably just holding on to its short-term bullish tone there. US 10-year yields still looking bearish on the medium-term chart, but just a little bit better on the short term. And German bonds, not the yields, the actual price, German bonds actually looking a little bit weaker. Just taking a look at the individual stocks, looking at the Dow Jones 30 on Friday, we saw some pretty big performances there. Intel were up 2%. And Pfizer up nearly 2%. So a lot of these US bellwethers really driving forward. Only a handful of stocks down there. And looking at the Nasdaq, the big players, Apple up 1%. So we're seeing these recoveries really continuing. Alphabet up 1%, and Amazon up 0.75%. So looking pretty good. And Facebook up over 1% as well. Taking a look at the Aussie market overnight. Appen Limited up 21%, Afterpay up 20%, so some really big performances here. Nanosonics up 12%. On the downside, we did have G8 Education down 11%, and Oho Media down 8.5%, so we're still seeing some pretty poor performances. China, as we said, leapt. To have 5% performance, you have to have quite a lot of big performances, and it's all these security stocks looking really strong. up 10%. There were 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 stocks up over 10%. So that's really, really powerful. Looking at India, your Ultratech were up 2.4%. UPL up 2.3% and Tata Consultancy up 2%. So we are seeing some pretty good performances there as well. On the downside, we did have Adani Points down a massive 8%, so that's really hit them, and Bharati Infratel down 2.8%. So it's a very mixed picture in the Indian market, so it's quite interesting there. Taking a look at Europe this morning, the FTSE 100, we start there. Glencore up 2%, so they're leading. Prudential up 1.6%, so we've got some quite big performances. A lot of stocks just marching out. Here's the live prices coming in from Yahoo, and it's really looking pretty bullish indeed. On the downside, Persimmon Group down 6%, really big falls there. Bunzl down 2%. And if we take a look at the 250, the mid caps in the UK, we've got Ferrex Pro down 2.5%, Fidelity down 2.5%. So we did have some quite big falls there. IP Group down 2%. So some good performances, but not changing the charts here on some of these medium-term stocks. Centium down 8.9%, so quite a big fall there. And then if we look to the European majors, the top 50 stocks in Europe, just ranking them by performance. BNP Paribas, the leader this morning, up 1.6%. Not changing the chart though. Intesa also looking pretty bearish. On the downside in Europe, just looking here, Safran down 0.7%, but not major performances. And here we see the live prices coming in again from Yahoo Finance. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.